Fantastic. My new favorite feature to our webinars is that you can get the recording in progress lady to talk to you at first, but then we'll start our webinar. So welcome to the Spring 23 Track and Field District Rep preseason meeting. We're going to take the usual pathway that we do with these webinars and meetings and kind of go through the stuff that you guys are going to need for the season. So we're going to move along here. Again, administrative stuff is what we'll really hit for the most part. We'll talk a little bit about just kind of prepping for the season, typical paperwork that you need, a lot of the stuff that you guys are used to seeing. And then additionally, we will talk a few track and field specific things since we have one or two new things. Nothing huge that you have to worry about though. First of all, I'd like to welcome Meredith Tarkenton. She is joining us as our track and field chair. That will eventually be her email once we set it up, once we have our meeting next Monday. So similar to Katie for bocce and tennis, she'll have a lastname.somd@gmail. Again, if you guys are planning to email me, copy Meredith on it. If you're planning to email Meredith, copy me on it. Just put us both on everything just so we can be in the loop. So Meredith doesn't give me a call one night and be like, hey, have you heard about this? And I have no clue. So again, welcome Meredith. We're excited to have her. And this is me. If you don't know me and my adventure cat at this point, I'm sorry. He may make a surprise appearance in the webinar, blurry in the background, along with 3 other cats. So if you need anything from me, as usual, grab me on my cell phone more than anything or my email. You can call my office number, but most of you guys know that I work primarily from home, so it's easier. Just grab me on my cell. So let's talk admin stuff. First thing is the season timeline. NPSSAA spring season, it started yesterday. We're well into it at this point, and you can see the first play date is March 21st. Additionally, for March 21st, that's the day that we recommend you start collecting that student athlete paperwork. Again, every student athlete that's participating on your track and field team needs the 2 pieces of paper to make them eligible. Application for participation, they need to be on your team roster, and they have to have that COVID CDW form. With that said, we are well into the year this year, and that means you may have some participants that were on tennis teams or participants that were doing indoor bocce or whatever it may be. If they've turned up stuff in already, you're good to go. Mark them on your roster, check them off as you need to. If you have a question of who does and does not have paperwork, please reach out to me and we can figure that out. April 8th on here, we need to have your folks into our GMS system. Let your LSS managers know. April 8th is the day that we're shooting for everybody in GMS. We need to make sure we get it in by that date specifically, because with track and field, it is a monster to set up in GMS. I think our Frederick crew definitely knows how wild that is because we do some of their stuff in GMS, but definitely April 8th is the deadline for getting stuff into GMS. Additionally, you see a note there about your postseason registration. That's the day that we want your postseason registration if you need help setting up your district tournaments. We definitely need your postseason competition rosters with the students' events, times, distances, so on and so forth on there. We need all that stuff if you want any help setting up your district tournament for sure. Additionally, the earlier we get it, the better, because then we can also make sure we have it for the state tournament. If for some reason we get to April 29th and you need a roster change because Jimmy dropped because he's not eligible because of grades anymore, that's fine. Just let us know, communicate with us, and we'll work with you to make things happen. What really hurts us for track and field is when we don't get correct or updated postseason registrations. We don't have updated or correct stuff in GMS. And then we get to Prince George's Sports and Learning Complex, and we have a really tough time with people coming up saying, oh, this is wrong. Oh, this is wrong. Oh, this is wrong. We can't play that game. We played that game last year, and we ended up 45 minutes behind to start the day. So again, make sure your stuff is in on time. And if you need help, let us know. We have May 5th, which is a Friday, as the last day to get information in to finish your district tournaments. If you are anticipating having a late district tournament and concerned about a rain day that you may need to work in after the 5th, please let me know. But that's really important that we get in for track and field specifically before the 5th, because that gives me roughly a week and a half to division everything, get everything set up, and get it all lined up. May 16th and May 17th are the state tournament down at Prince George's Sports and Learning Complex. Same places we've always gone, same place we probably always will go. You can see on here right now, we have scheduled for anyone with rosters fewer than 20 student athletes are going on Tuesday, the 16th. Anybody with 21 or more are going on Wednesday, the 17th. Just know that if we end up in the same ballpark of participation numbers like we did last year, we may have that conversation about going on one day again. So be prepared for that. Hopefully, as we get further and further away from the difficulties of COVID-19 being a big problem for us, hopefully we get back to 2 days and we can really fill both of those days. Additionally, please mark on your calendars, talk to your transportation people, do all the things you need to do to make sure that that May 18th, that Thursday, is a flex day. If we get rain either on the 16th or 17th, we'll bump one of those days into the 18th. And we typically have to make that call the week before. So just be prepared for the 18th as well. You can share this link with your coaches. Thursday, May 9th at 6:30. That is the pre-competition webinar. We will go down the details of what to expect at the state tournament. Tuesday and Wednesday will be both very similar days. They might have slightly different schedules because of numbers of participants in the 21 plus bracket as compared to the 20 or under bracket, but we'll cover everything your coaches need to know in this webinar. Since every team is eligible to go to the state invitational for track and field, you can send this link to them right now to have them register and not even worry about it. Again, Prince George's Sports and Learning Complex on the 16th and 17th. That's the game plan. If something changes, we will let you know, but we hope not because it's a beautiful facility. Coaches training options. Most of you will do some sort of coaches training, whether it's a virtual get together. I know Michelle has a Google Meet on Monday to get together with her coaches. If it's in person, some districts like to have all the coaches come in for one day. It's a in-service day or whatever, and do all their athletic stuff, coaches trainings, whatever. You guys know the deal, but we want you to get with your coaches. Please take the time to sit down, run through the details of days that they need to know, talk about track and field, answer track and field questions. And if when you're meeting with your coaches, they have a question about rules or events or anything that comes up and you can't answer, feel free to say, I'm not sure. We'll reach out to SOMD. But please make sure you get together with your coaches so you can communicate information early and often. If you have preseason meeting dates, I didn't put Frederick's in here, but if you can kick those to me, that's great. I'd love to join you as much as I can. Again, that's not a guarantee, but I try to. And then get me your district tournament dates, because I would love to come out to your district tournaments. We do have one for Washington, and I'm sure we have a couple more that I probably have missed over the past 2 weeks because we've had back-to-back state events for SOMD. Additionally, if you want some sort of tips and tricks on coaching Special Olympics athletes for track and field, this guide, which the link you'll be able to click when I send you these slides, it's a really good guide for your coaches. It's roughly a bazillion pages long at this point, but it has all sorts of stuff from the track and field rules to working with athletes on specific things. You know, a lot of the times, you have X athlete that has Y problem. A lot of the times when I've had that issue, when I've coached Special Olympic sports in the past, I go to these coaches guides and they have a lot of good tips in there. The one disclaimer I have to make for this guide is it's based off of Special Olympics community program rules, which they use ITF rules and we use NFHS rules. Again, we run the high school track rules. They're all pretty much the same. There's just some slight differences in them. But just know anything that they talk about rules-wise in this guide are for ITF, not NFHS. Additionally, speaking of rules, before I get to this GMS stuff, they do have the rule book out for 2023 for NFHS. Nothing's really changed in there. You can go on NFHS pretty much like September of every year, and you can order yourself a new rule book for the year for like $10. They're pretty nifty. They're good to have. They're pretty small. You can keep in your pocket. They're meant for officials, but they're not bad to invest in for yourself as well. So one thing I will follow up in the follow-up email tomorrow with is if anybody's planning to run their week-to-week track meets or their district tournament in GMS, let's talk about who needs to get together, who needs help, who needs GMS training. Let's work on that. It's great to run our track and field meets in GMS. As long as we get all the information in, all the student athletes' names, all their events, all their times, all their distances, it's super easy to division them. We can then print, heat by heat by heat sheets for you to use, all that good stuff. With that said, you don't have to do it in GMS. If you have another way that you like to organize your meet with spreadsheets or whatever, that's perfectly fine as well. We just like to offer the opportunity since this is what GMS is made for. Just a reminder, if you are making teams and you happen to have multiple track teams for some reason, typically we only see this in bocce or tennis or whatever it may be. Last year, I think we saw one or two teams that were smaller teams and they divided up a couple times to make more small teams, or they had a ton of kids and they had to split it down the middle, whatever it may be. Please make sure you're naming your teams high school and then a number, not colors or mascots or favorite animals or whatever it may be. We appreciate the creativity of coaches who do that. I know they want to make it fun for their student athletes, but it makes it super hard for us to know. Make sure when those postseason registrations do come in as district reps, you comb through them a little bit and take a look to make sure they're right. For the most part, I'm pretty good at this point at catching stuff for track and field. It doesn't make sense to have a 1.06, 50-meter dash time. You're not running that in a second. It's probably 10 seconds, whatever it may be. But make sure you're coming through so the numbers look right for distances and times and so on and so forth. Primarily, we also see this when it comes to relay teams. If you have multiple relay teams, that's fine. That's great. We want you to have multiple teams. Make sure you're numbering them, not giving them colors or animals or whatever. Essentially, this is just saying, we want you to practice for 8 weeks. We want you to have some competitions. If for some reason you foresee that you can't get a good handful of competitions in, if for some reason your season's only going to be a couple weeks long, reach out to me, let me know, let us know if there's any way we can support you guys to make more happen. And then additionally, we just need you to have officially 2 regular season competitions, which is just dual meets or whatever it may be, and your district meet counts as one of them. So again, essentially your district meet and a dual meet of some sort meets the requirement, but we would love to see your student athletes every other week or 3 weeks in April getting a chance to run against other schools. Additionally, all sorts of resources. We will have all these resources available on our Unified Track and Field website. I will have that up to date by the end of business tomorrow. We're not doing the Google Drive of you guys going in and pulling stuff out and dumping stuff in there. We found a little bit more success organizationally on the back end for us, at least, of this track and field website. So that'll be clickable and it'll be all up to date by the end of the day tomorrow. This is the typical checklist that we provide for you guys. A lot of you are well into this checklist already, finding out which schools are bringing out teams, finding which coaches are going to coach teams. If you have information for your coaches, whenever you get a coach's email list and a coach's contact list together, please send it to me and Meredith. It really helps for us if for some reason we get further down the line towards the state tournament and Debbie Johnson is missing a time for her 100-meter. Well, instead of going to you and then you going to the coach and then the coach coming back to you, we can just go straight to the coach, get that time, and we can all move on without having to bother you guys for sure. But again, remember to have your coaches trainings and connect with your coaches sooner rather than later. Recruitment stuff, I'm working on getting posters sent to you guys directly to you guys to use. We've had the new recruitment posters this year, and hopefully they've been working for you. We also have resources for your LSS managers on how to put people into events, how to register them for training, so on and so forth. Please let us know if you need any additional resources or recruitment items to help you bolster your programs and make them bigger and better than ever. Uniforms, I think we're in a relatively good spot when it comes to uniforms. Essentially, at the end of the day, as long as it has that, IUS Special Olympics Unified Sports pill on it, on the chest, on the sleeve, on the back of the neck, wherever, it's perfectly fine. If it has that in your school name, that's all we're looking for. If you want to put a mascot on it, if there's a design on it, that's all fine, as long as it has your school name and your unified sports pill on there. That's perfectly fine with us. We will give you the logos as a resource on the coach resource page. You don't have to go into this Google Drive anymore. I should have pulled that in the first place, but you can get that on the coach resource page, and you can essentially just pull them right off the page. If for some reason you are ordering new shirts and you need a super high res version of that, I can get that from our communications team. You just need to reach out and ask. The last thing I'll say on uniforms is, if you have a school that has uniforms that have the team name on it, but you don't have the unified sports pill on it, you can reach out to me and I can connect you with our clothing provider. I've worked out essentially with them that we have patches of the unified sports pill that they'll make. And essentially you can just order them. They're whatever a 3-inch patch costs nowadays. They're pretty cost effective. So if you need to get a team's uniform up to standard in a quick fix as compared to printing new uniforms across the board, you can reach out to me and we can hook you up with that. Again, talk to your athletics directors for your schools, your coaches, have them go to their athletic directors. If you need new uniforms, if you need new equipment, whatever it may be. Again, we want you to visit the coach resource page. We'll have all of the information and stuff there for you to get. Make sure you do an inventory of uniforms and equipment and stuff. I know our warehouse, we've been working on turning over old equipment that's no good anymore, any beat up batons, making sure that we have enough metric-based tape measures. Again, make sure you're doing things in metric. That's the way we like them turned in, because that's the way GMS likes them. And then other than that, just work on recruiting, and coaches working on recruiting as usual. And as always, if you need anything, reach out and email me. I've mentioned this before as well with recruiting. If there's anything that you think of that might be a new and exciting way to recruit student athletes to join your unified sports programs, let me know. Let's talk about it. Let's see what we can do to support you in that. Maybe it's ordering, whatever it may be. Just reach out and let me know. I think we are in a new window of students who have new priorities and haven't had the same experiences with unified sports because of the COVID pandemic and them not all being in the school at the time. So let me know if there's stuff to recruit student athletes in a different way than we're already doing. I'm absolutely open to it. The COMAR stuff. Before we get to COMAR, any questions on all the admin stuff? Again, most of it's business as usual, but I want to check.
Hey, Zach.
Yeah.
So the date to have the LSS managers have all, which me or Ellie will be doing,
okay,
if it matters, is April 8th. I think that's a Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
Am I wrong about that?
No, I think it is on a weekend. I put it on a weekend, or it's either, sometimes it's like a Sunday, so Sunday night counts, or like it's a Monday. I put it that way just so, like, if it has to be 2-day crunch where, like, hey, I'm behind on my GMS stuff, I need to commit this weekend to sit down to knock it out before the due date. I try to put it with a weekend window. So if you're just bogged down with school stuff during the week, you can say, hey, let me take a weekend just to bog down and knock it all out.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. But I know you're going to get it done so much earlier than April 8th says, so I'm not even worried.
No, it'll be done April 8th.
Sounds good. I appreciate your honesty.
Well, the week before that spring break, so.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, then we'll see your GMS stuff on April 8th then, Seth. So Comar stuff. I'm not going to do a deep dive into Comar. Again, it has to do with you can't have varsity track and field athletes also running unified sports track and field. They don't want them double dipping. That makes sense. But again, Comar is done slightly differently in every county. I know there's an example of a county I was talking to recently of if you're a varsity athlete on a different varsity sport, they don't have you participating in unified sports because they want to diversify the opportunities for everyone in the school. They don't just want varsity athletes, taking up unified sports spots. So there's other schools that, kind of let people flip-flop as it's appropriate, mostly with tennis, because there's a little bit of a wiggle window with tennis. But again, talk to your athletic supervisor for your district or an athletic director for a specific school if you have Comar questions. Again, I won't go super detailed just because it's a little bit different in every district. Again, so we have 12 districts now, just in case you're wondering. For track and field, it's mostly the western part of the state: Allegheny, Garrett, Washington, Frederick, Prince George's, Charles County, and that's it. I thought I was missing one. Is our track and field. So now you know who's participating with us. We do have Baltimore County who's joined us, who had a really great time for their first season at indoor bocce, so we're excited to have them. And then St. Mary's is coming back to join us for outdoor bocce, and we're excited to have them back as well. So if you know folks in other districts, we're working on Carroll County, Howard County, and Harford County to continue to join us to be statewide. Let them know. Have them reach out. I'm more than happy to talk to them. We would love to get unified sports in some way, shape, or form involved in all the school districts in the state. Forms and registration, the fun stuff. We're not going to read through all these. We talk about this all the time. The biggest thing that I'm going to stress with the forms and paperwork is we need to get them in on time. Again, especially for track and field, because if we're chasing paperwork at the end of the season and trying to get people to states, the more chasing we do, the less successful and less smooth the state tournament is. So please work with us, communicate with us, let us know if there's an issue with paperwork. The biggest thing, and I say every time we're on a webinar, every time I see you guys, communicate. Again, we're willing to work with you, we're willing to help you, but if we don't know you're having a problem, we don't know you're struggling with something, we don't know how to help you. And then when a deadline passes, we're just confused on what happened. So again, communicate. The one paper along with the CDW that you need for student athletes is this application for participation. We've updated it a little bit, so hopefully it's easier to denote who has intellectual disabilities in the gray column versus other disabilities. If you check anything in the white column but not the gray column, those are our unified partners with IEP 504s. And again, remember, unified partners with IEP 504s can be designated as an athlete or a unified partner as your team's needed, but just stay consistent. If you have somebody that was a unified partner IEP 504 in the fall for tennis, and they were a unified partner, please keep them a unified partner because it helps keep things consistent and keeps the paperwork and the GMS work really easy. The CDW, which is the COVID waiver. Again, the nice thing is if you've done this once, it's a one and done, so you don't have to do this every year. I have told other programs that if they want to have somebody do this every year, that's perfectly fine too. If you want to make sure you're definitely checking the boxes on all your kids, what's one more line to sign for a parent and a kid to make sure that they have it, right? The team roster declaration. This is the team roster that we want towards the beginning of the season. This is so we can know who is on your team or who at least you plan to be on your team. This could change towards the end of the year, but this is really helpful for us. And more importantly, it's helpful to know who's in GMS, because then that allows us to get everyone in GMS, make sure they're registered, and we don't miss anyone, because that's how we run into that issue at state games where somebody doesn't get a credential and isn't prepared to be on the field of play because they weren't in GMS, they weren't on this roster. The big things is, again, make sure you fill in all this information for coaches. We need to know what school system they are. If we can get their email and cell phone on this, it's even more helpful, which is great. The one thing that I want to remind you of is this top section here where it says head coach and assistant coach. Make sure you get anybody that's on the field of play helping with the team in that section. Head coaches, assistant coaches, paraprofessionals that are one-on-ones, team managers that are students that are helping volunteer on the team. If you have an athletic director that's super involved in working with the kids and may come to our state tournament, get them on the top section of this roster. I'd rather have people put into GMS that are, paraprofessionals and one-on-ones and stuff, and then have us not print a credential for them or scratch them than be chasing them down the morning of. That's the best thing for sure, to get everyone in that section up top. Additionally, this is the older form. Unfortunately, I forgot to swap this out for the roster where you put your students. We now have a section that says athlete, unified partner IEP 504, that you can just circle which one that person is, and it makes it super easy to know who's who. That's probably the only major update you've seen on this roster this year. The sections in the gray on the right, that's just for use for your LSS managers for putting stuff into GMS. Nothing you need to do with that, but again, it's sometimes helpful for the LSS managers putting information into GMS. Class A clearance. This is all the people at the top of that roster when I talked about coaches, paraprofessionals, anybody that's working with the team managers. This is the stuff they need to do. Class A clearance for Special Olympics Maryland are three things, essentially. Protective behaviors training, which is now a 15-minute, 10-question investment. It used to be like an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half. We've trimmed it down to just the core essentials that you need to work with our athletes. The CDW COVID form, and then either the background check for anyone that's 18 or older, or the student minor reference form for anyone that's younger than 18. We are now pushing everyone to Volunteer Hub to do this. When you register, you should be able to create an account or log back into your account. And essentially, if you picked the right role as a school-based participant, school coach, or whatever it may be, it'll take you step by step to do all three of these things. So Volunteer Hub is the best way to go. We do take in the physical paperwork of these if you have a coach that feels more confident and better about doing the physical paperwork as a compared to Volunteer Hub. So let me know if that's something that you need as well. But these are the three things all those people, again, coaches, paraprofessionals, team managers, need to be eligible and cleared for participation with us. This section is the section I click through because it just takes you through how to do Volunteer Hub, how to do protective behaviors. Again, feel free to share this section with coaches. It takes you step by step through Volunteer Hub, and it's not something that we need to go slide by slide and talk about. Again, those are the three things that you need to be cleared as a coach, volunteer, or whatever. All this just talks about, again, make sure that your coaches are submitting paperwork directly to you. Coaches will turn in their stuff via Volunteer Hub, but they should be turning the application of participation and the CDW for their students straight to you. Please look over those things. One of the biggest things that we catch on those papers for students is either A, they did a digital signature and printed it out. We need a written signature, and or B, They don't do a signature at all. And then we come across it, we have to kick it back to you. You have to kick it back to them. So keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. Again, we want your coaches paperwork in by April 8th as well, just like the GMS deadline. And if you need some sort of report to say, hey, here's my coaches, what do they have or what don't they have? Email me, please. Send me a list of your coaches. I will do a verification. I'll set up a spreadsheet and send you, this coach has PB done, doesn't have a volunteer background, and turned in their CDW form. This one has X, Y, and Z. And I'll send you a whole list of everything already done for you in an Excel spreadsheet that you can share. So again, email me if you want me to double check your coaches. Same thing. This is just talking about LSS managers and the responsibility of putting things in the GMS. If you have questions, if your LSS managers have questions about GMS, reach out. I'm more than happy to set up a Zoom. I will even come out and sit down with you in person if it makes you feel better. So just let me know. Again, this is another link to coach resource page, all sorts of information and stuff that you can get on there. Really good and really helpful. Questions on paperwork before we go into the track and field stuff. Nope. Okay. Paperwork's same thing as usual. Nothing new. Track and field stuff. Again, we have the flexibility with rosters. We want it to be unified as much as it can and have a 50-50 balance. That's the dream, right? But we do have that 70-30 split of you can't have more than a 70-30 split of individuals with disabilities or without. Whichever way it goes, that's fine, but you can't have one or the other way severely skewed. If for some reason you have a really strong year of recruiting student athletes with intellectual disabilities and you're really struggling to get partners for some reason this year, reach out to me. We'll have a conversation, and then I will convene with all the district reps and say, hey, X school and X district has an issue where they're at 75-25. Are we willing to bless this for state tournament participation? Are we going to say they can come and participate for participation only? Whatever it might be. We had that last year, and we had a conversation around that. Again, teams that do not meet the 12 student athlete minimum, combine them with another team. If you have a small school for some reason and they have 6 kids, put them into a roster that has at least another 6 to get 12. But please do combine those teams. Again, I just mentioned, if you're having a problem with the 70-30 rule, reach out, let me know. We will talk about it with district reps. Again, this is the crew that is probably on this webinar, and we will reconvene if we need to talk about a school. But again, don't be afraid to reach out. You're not going to get in trouble. We will resolve it in some way, shape, or form to get a good experience for your student athletes. But just don't hold it back. And then when we get to the state tournament, then we might not be able to help you. Weighted scoring system, we're running the same system. You get 5 points for first place, 3 points for second place, 1 point for third place in every division for each competition. So you may have 8 divisions of shot put, and everyone that's first through third in that gets some sort of points to contribute to their overall team score. Additionally, because it is a super unlikely situation that on Tuesday of the state tournament or at your district tournament, we get to magically have one division of everybody having 18 kids on their team. Never going to happen, right? We do a weighted scoring system where the highest number of student athletes on a team, that team, say it's 18, they will be the consistent, and then everybody gets a weighted score that has less student athletes but are potentially in a similar division. So if you have questions about that, let me know. I'm more than happy to do a small training on that specifically. We did have some questions about that in strength and conditioning, and we did a little education session on it, which really helped for people to understand better. Additionally, when it comes to your district meets, please get yourself ready to run this system for awarding points and team scoring if you're not already prepared to do so. We want you to do this scoring so that when they get to the state tournament, they're not confused by what the scoring system is. Again, this talks about, we want you to have a district tournament. We want you to have weekly meets. We want an opening ceremony at your district tournament, divisioning, team scoring, so on and so forth. The usual stuff that I know you guys all do. If you have a question with any of that or you need support with it, please let me know, and I'm more than happy to help you. On to the new stuff. This year, we are introducing the softball throw as a lower level of entry into the shot put type of fielding event. It's similar procedures to shot put. It happens at the shot put pit. The nice thing is, with the softball throw, you don't have to throw it like a typical shot put. You can throw it overhand, you can throw it underhand. As long as you throw that softball and it stays in the vector, you get a distance and a score. It's really helpful for student athletes that may not have full range of motion, may not be able to move their arm in a shot put fashion because there's a specific way to throw it. But we are introducing it this year. So hopefully your student athletes get involved with it. With that said, there is a specific dimension for the softballs to be used. I will make sure you get the dimensions for the softballs used in the coach's guide. And you can always follow up with us with the ones that we use if you're looking for some. Additionally, the biggest thing with softball throw is there's a 20-meter maximum threshold for a participant in this event. If you have a student that's coming up and throwing the living heck out of a softball and they're breaking 20 meters, they shouldn't be in softball throw. Get them into shot put and work with them to be a good shot putter. I know it's difficult sometimes to get student athletes to throw the shot put the right way and go through the procedures. But if they're throwing the softball more than 20 meters, they should move up into that next event and get the challenge of throwing the actual shot put. Questions on softball throw? Okay. There are videos on softball throw that I will try to hunt down and send to you so you can get a visual of it. If not, if you would like me to come to your preseason coaches training and demonstrate it, I'm more than happy to do that as well. The next one is the 50-meter wheelchair slalom. Essentially, it's 2 lanes get taken up by cones and an athlete in a wheelchair slaloms between them. When we do this, we will have separate divisions for motorized wheelchairs and manual wheelchairs. So we won't have manual wheelchairs going against motorized wheelchairs. The biggest thing that we want to implement this for is it doesn't make sense, especially for motorized wheelchairs, for them to be doing a 50, 100-meter, whatever it is, where essentially they're just finding out who has the fastest motorized wheelchair. That is not a great experience for your student athletes. We want to engage them more. So if you have folks in a wheelchair and they want to do a track-based race along with a field event, this is what we want them entered into. I am more than happy to come out and do a demonstration on this as well, because quite honestly, the race isn't all that difficult. It's the setup of this. This is what the setup on an 8-lane track looks like. I just did the first lane, so lanes 1 and 2. That is 1 lane for 1 wheelchair athlete. They will start and they'll go into lane 2 on the right-hand side of that first cone, but between the purple and orange cones, and then they'll go back and forth between lane 2 to 1, 2 to 1 around the cones in a slalom fashion. It's a typical slalom event. Again, the hardest thing is probably just having enough cones and setting the cones up with the right distances to get it set up. Again, once you're ready to go, the athletes running the race, once they learn how to do it, it's just a traditional slalom event. If you've ever seen any sort of alpine skiing slalom, it's the same concept. Before I go on to any more slides, I'm going to pause for questions on this, because if there's going to be questions, I assume it would be on this.
Hi, Zach. So if we only have, for example, 1 person who has a wheelchair, I think Wise is the only school that has someone with a wheelchair. should we not offer that race, or how would that happen?
I
Like if
would-
it's only one person.
Yep. So Terry, I would totally offer this race, even if you only have one person, because you got to remember, once you go to states, that one person is probably in a division with at least 2, maybe if not 3 other people to run that race. So, and on top of that too, we want to make sure we give our student athletes that option. We don't want to pigeonhole our student athletes in wheelchairs into just a field event because they don't have a race to run on the track. So if you have any wheelchair athletes, we highly recommend that you offer this, even if it's just for one. Unfortunately, I will say that if you only have one, it tends to be more of a time trial than it is a race. But again, it's still a really good experience. And then once they get the state, they're going to be running against other people as well. So other questions about the wheelchair slalom? All right. If you have questions and something pops up in the back of your mind 2 days from now, 3 days from now, a month from now, please reach out, email me, call me, whatever you need. We will get you answers. And again, I'm more than happy to come out and do the whole setup for you as a training opportunity as well. This was in last year's webinar just to talk about the exchange zones. They moved from the shorter exchange zones to the 30-meter ones. Most tracks that are relatively new within the past probably 3 to 5 years have these markings. They have these markings for the 30-meter exchange zone for sure at Prince George's Sports and Learning Complex. But if you need help determining these markings on your track as well, we're more than happy to help you with that as well. Again, we're going to offer a 4x1 and a 4x2 until we see enough participation and requests for 4x4 again. We're sticking with the 4x1 and the 4x2.
Hey, Zach.
Yeah.
In the chat, we have a question. Can wheelchair athletes still run the 100 meter?
Barb, we want wheelchair athletes all in the slalom. It's not that we don't enjoy them being in the 100-meter, but we find that the 50-meter slalom is definitely more challenging and more rewarding than just a straight line race, if that makes sense. Good question, though. All right, so one of our last slides that we're going to get to is Meredith. Once she's up and running, and I've got her feeling a little bit more comfortable with things. She's going to reach out, like any of you that have worked with Katie in the past for any other sports. She's going to reach out once a week and do a check-in of, hey, how are you doing? Do you need anything? Here's some reminders of what's going on this week. Here's a reminder of what deadlines are coming up. And if you need help, please respond. If you don't need help, it also doesn't hurt to say, hey, Meredith, I'm good this week. Thank you for checking in and reminding me. Because if we don't hear from you for like 2 or 3 weeks, then I worry that we lost you somewhere and we got to send out some sort of search party. And I don't want to have to do that. So again, check in with Meredith when she reaches out, even if it's just a, yeah, I'm good. Please reach out and communicate. Like I said, if you run into challenges of some sort throughout the season, communicate. Again, when Meredith reaches out week to week, reach back out. Give me a call on my cell phone. Send me a text. Email me. Send carrier pigeons, smoke signals. I don't care. Just as long as you're communicating with us, I'm happy to have whatever type of communication you are willing to share with us and that we're willing to help you with. With that said, that is the end of the line for the presentation. I'm willing to take questions on everything and anything now. So feel free to put stuff in the chat or on mute if you have any questions.
Hey, Zach, it's Greta. Sorry.
Hey, Greta.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. The dogs have stopped barking.
That's good.
Now that I say that, they'll probably start again. But can we set up times to, like, before each, like how we kind of did last time, we would, prior to our time trials, we would set up a time to meet so I can make sure that I'm entering these things in. I know Mike Sarnas, I can never say his last name, Sarnowski, helped helped with that initially when I first got on there, but he's right. I just need a refresher every time we start. And I know that once we get started and we can do those heat sheets again, that would be awesome because that was very helpful.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm gonna try to see, maybe we can get together in, I mean, mid-March sometime, even just to do a run through to get you ready to go. So we just have more runway to knock things down as they come at us.
Right.
I'll
think
reach out to
that
you for sure.
I feel like the most effective was when we like right after those time trials, you know what I mean? Like right after we did that time trial meet, that's when things started picking up, and like every week we would do something. So yeah, absolutely. And are you coming, Michelle? I don't know if is he coming to our meetings on Monday?
Yep.
Okay, so maybe we can just touch base then and just get some dates on a calendar so we can have them ahead of time instead of, hey, Zach, tomorrow, are you free? So
Yeah, for sure. You know what? We'll plan on, let's see if we can meet in March, and I'll make a copy of your stuff from last year that we can just play around with, and we can mess around with it like it's a brand new copy essentially. So we could do
sounds good. I want to maybe get somebody else on board to take a look at it too.
Yeah, for sure. If you want to get somebody else in the loop to just have an additional person that has an idea of what's going on, more than willing to do that for sure. Other questions?
Zach, when you send the presentation, will it be one that we can edit for our own meetings?
Yes, I will. I will send both. I will send a PDF just if you want to pull it off, print it, whatever you want to do nice and quick. But I will also send you a PowerPoint version so you can strip out things that you don't want and change dates, because I have dates in here for you guys, but you may want to set dates a week earlier for paperwork and such. So for sure.
And our meeting will be the 9th
Okay.
at South, if you would like to come.
I will try to be there. I may have to help my brother move to Boston next week. So
Understood. That's okay. That's okay. Thanks.
For sure. Other questions?
Hey, Zach, this is Terry.
Yeah.
So my question was primarily when we get closer, not necessarily to the heat sheet. I know last year when we did our championship, I didn't want to mess up with the awards for the kids.
Yep.
Maybe just a refresher on making sure we're not doing individuals, I know, so we just give whoever placed in the top 3 or to get the medals, the teams based on all the scoring, and do we do divisionals kind of at that level as if they were going to be at states? Because I think that's where we got messed up when we did it.
Yeah, Terry, what I'll probably do is we'll schedule a time in March like I'm doing with Greta, just so we can get it ahead of time, so we don't play that game of like, oh, we're in April now, we really need to meet, and it's coming up close on your tournament and stuff. We'll get that knocked out early when there's that little bit of a gap for us, so we can make sure you got everything you need. All right, Terry?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
And I think that was my biggest question, was making sure I did that part right.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get you worked out on that, Terry. No worries. And we can have Coach Rose join us too, and we can all sit down and do that. I'll even come down to Northwestern or Flowers or whatever you want to do that, even if you want to do it in person. So any other?
Yeah, that might work.
Yeah,
when we're all together. Yeah.
Any other questions?
So real quick, Zach, I don't know if Michelle is still on. I didn't see her still on, but she's been texting me, so I don't know if she's like on the phone or whatever. But so for this new softball throw,
yes,
we're actually using a softball.
It is a softball. Yes, it is. It is. I don't know what level of softball specs it is, and I don't want to give that to you and be wrong. I'll follow up in the email tomorrow with the correct specs. I don't know if it's, you know, little league. I don't know if it's high school. I don't know if it's college, what the technical softball size is. But I will follow up, but it is a literal softball.
So it's a, so it's a little softball, but each district will be required to purchase these for them. I mean, it is softball season, so I hate to go to the softball coach and ask, can we borrow? I know that they would give us some, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, I was just asking for a friend, right?
Yeah, no worries. So I'll be honest, for IUS track and field and for community track and field, we kind of use the leftovers from our regular softball spring season. So there might be leftovers at SOMD if you need them. But if that's something that you need that we're adding and you just need them and you don't know if your districts can get them, email me and let me know. For the first time of us doing this, I can place an order so every district has some. But I can't guarantee that I'll be able to outfit everyone with a ton of softballs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. Thank you so much. It kind of opens up a door to some people that, struggle with the long jump and struggle with the turbo jav. So it could open up some opportunities for some students. But yeah, just so here's my other question is, if you're demonstrating how to use this or how to do this on Monday, you do that virtually? That's going to be a fun show because we're going to record that.
I will find a Special Olympics video. I'm sure we have them to share that on the screen, because if I'm doing that virtually, I fear for my cat's safety.
Totally understandable. Thanks, Zach.
All right, more questions. All right, I'm not hearing questions. I'm not going to rush us out of here if you're thinking about questions, but I will start to wrap it up. And as usual, thank you guys for everything you do. I appreciate that you guys take the lead in your districts. I appreciate that you guys act as the liaison to Special Olympics Maryland with your athletic supervisors and coaches and all those different things. And I know that every season is a little bit extra crazy. Something new pops up, something that you don't see coming comes, but you guys do an excellent job pivoting and doing what you need to do to give your student athletes the best experience they can. And again, I can't thank you guys enough for all that you do. Again, I will mention communication. Reach out to us, talk to us, let us know what you need, and we'll support you with anything you need that we can make happen. So with that, Meredith, is there anything that you want to add before we close out?
No, just hi. Nice to meet you guys, and I'm excited to work with you all this season.
All right, with that said, last call for questions. Nothing. All right, I'm giving you 5 minutes back of your evening, so don't say I never did anything for you. Thank you guys again. I will see you guys for some sort of track and field sooner rather than later, and if you need anything, let us know. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, bye.